Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Commander Juno Hale's routine morning shattered the moment the alarm roared through Earth Horizon Defense Hub. The red lights flashed in her peripheral vision as she slammed her datapad shut, coffee spilling across the control console. Somewhere deep in the station, a distant klaxon synchronized with the pulsing alert, echoing down the steel corridors. All senior officers report to the operations deck immediately, the automated voice commanded. Juno snapped to attention, her uniform crisp despite the chaos. 15 years at Horizon had taught her one thing: emergencies here were rare and never simple. She moved through the corridor, her boots clicking on the durasteel plating. Officers scurried past, faces pale behind their visors. At the central nexus, holographic star maps hovered over a circular table. Each flickered with fleet positions and colony markers stretched across countless light years. Admiral Selene Riordan stood at the hub's core, arms crossed beneath her silver epaulets. Her brow furrowed, she waited for silence. As Juno entered, Riordan's voice cut through the tension. 1 hour ago, the Grand Void Alliance issued a galaxy-wide declaration of war on humanity. They claim we attacked 3 border colonies without warning. Murmurs spread like wildfire. The Grand Void, once Earth's strongest trading partner, had maintained a tense but peaceful truce for decades. Juno's heart pounded. "Is there any record of those attacks?" she asked. "No," admitted Captain Alistair Renner at the nav station. "Our logs show no engagement in those sectors for months." Intelligence analyst Lena Soren, her eyes sharp behind augmented reality lenses, tapped her console. "They broadcast footage across every channel, see here." She enlarged a clip. Earthships unleashing plasma volleys on civilian outposts. The structures collapsed in infernos far from any known battlefield. Juno frowned. Those patterns, they're textbook defensive formations. No captain would aim like that at civilians. Lena slowed the clip. "Look at the shadows on the buildings, they don't align with the weapon glows." An uneasy hush fell. Admiral Riordan's jaw tightened. "Whether it's real or not, we have 72 hours to surrender our outer colonies or face full invasion. Prepare defensive positions." But as the crowd dispersed, Juno lingered with Lena. "Something's off," she said. Lena nodded. "I'm already pulling raw comms from void relay networks. Meet me in analysis room in 1 hour." The analysis room's walls shimmered with live data feeds, intercepted diplomatic cables, environmental scans, power grid fluctuations. Juno studied the colony archives. "These buildings were upgraded last year," she said, "but the footage shows centuries-old architecture." Lena pulled up 2 small heat signatures on her display. "And even after the supposed destruction, automated systems still ping. It's like those worlds never went dark." Juno's mind raced. "Who would fabricate a war?" Lena shrugged. "Either the Grand Void wants a pretext or someone else is pulling both our strings." She paused. "We need more eyes on this. Who else can decode void transmissions?" Juno smiled. "I know just the person." As dawn broke over Earth's cerulean horizon, the alarm's echo lingered in Juno's thoughts. A war that wasn't real had already mobilized 2 great civilizations. Somewhere in the shadows, someone had lit the fuse. And only a handful of humans even knew the truth. The next morning, Commander Juno Hale and analyst Lena Soren convened in Horizon's secure data lab. The heavy door slid shut behind them, sealing them away from prying eyes. The soft hum of supercomputers filled the air as they booted up the isolated playback terminal. Lieutenant Dante Everin, a seasoned tactical officer with an eye for detail, joined them alongside communications specialist Rafaela Cruz. None spoke as they gathered around the flickering holo display. Lena loaded the broadcast footage into a frame-by-frame analysis module. The image of collapsed buildings and Earth cruisers firing plasma bolts loomed before them. Juno leaned forward, studying the scene. "Slow it down to 40% speed," she ordered. The weapon's discharges glowed brighter against the dark sky. Dante adjusted the angle, freezing the frame at the exact moment a bolt struck a tower. Then he rewound again, each time scrutinizing the direction and length of the shadows. "See here," Lena pointed. "The sun's coming from the east in that location, but these shadows fall as if the light is from the south." Juno nodded, her jaw tight. "And these debris patterns don't match ground reports. These structures were renovated last cycle with reinforced titanium alloys. They would collapse differently." Dante tapped his datapad. "We have before and after schematics of those colonies. The shapes of the buildings no longer match." Every inconsistency deepened the mystery. Rafaela had been monitoring Harvest Band comm relays from the so-called destroyed worlds. She pulled up live signal logs on a separate console. Despite the war broadcast 4 days ago, these nodes are alive. Environmental controls and civilian equipment still ping every 30 minutes. She highlighted clusters of transmission spikes. Life support diagnostics, agricultural drones, even personal comm arrays are online. These planets never lost power. Juno exchanged a glance with Lena. So the broadcast lied. Either someone created the attack reel or the Grand Void is bluffing about us. Either way, this is deliberate. Rafaela's fingers flew across her holotable, decrypting each signal's metadata. Incoming frequency patterns align with Earth standard encryption keys. They're not void broadcasts pretending to be us, they're our own data loops. The realization hit Juno like a jolt. Someone tapped into our systems and reused our own footage against us. Dante frowned. But why craft this elaborate ruse? The Grand Void Alliance could simply deploy their fleet against us. They don't need a pretext. Lena shook her head. We don't know it's them. This could be a third party, someone profiting from a war between two superpowers. Rafaela leaned back, her expression grave. We need proof of origin. Where was the footage produced? Who directed those comm relays? She tapped deeper into the logs, isolating the relay signatures to a neutral zone between Earth and void space. Coordinates? Juno asked. Rafaela activated a star chart projection. A tiny blue dot glowed near the edge of the Terra-Astral corridor, an unmarked station beyond charted jump lanes. Juno stared at it. We need boots on the ground there fast. Lena nodded. And clear this with Admiral Riordan. We can't risk court-martial or worse for an unauthorized mission. Juno's eyes flashed. We may not have the luxury of waiting for approval. If this is a trap, hundreds of worlds could burn in a war that never started. As they spoke, the lab's outer sensors detected incoming traffic. Dante tapped his console. We have an incoming rookie comms officer and 2 cadets. They're curious. We need time to cover this up or secure our findings. Juno stood, her uniform crisp despite the gravity of their situation. Lock down this terminal. Wipe any non-secure logs. Lena, prepare a shadow copy of our analysis. Rafaela, encrypt the real data behind multiple layers. Dante, reroute any probes heading to those relay nodes. The team moved swiftly, their actions practiced from many crisis drills. Within minutes, the lab's network appeared clean, only dummy files remained on the public drives. Behind the scenes, Lena and Rafaela worked together to encapsulate their evidence in untraceable sub-channels. Juno watched each step, her mind racing with contingency plans. Once we have a ship, we leave in under 2 hours. I'll requisition a standard patrol corvette, armed lightly, flagged as routine maintenance. No one will suspect, Dante saluted sharply. Yes, Commander, I'll prep the vessel logs and scrub the manifest. Cadets will think they're on a simple run, will be gone before they can file a report. Rafaela nodded. And I'll have the encrypted package ready to transmit directly to Admiral Riordan's private uplink. If they question it, too bad, we'll demand a secure channel. Lena gave a small smile. Information always finds a way. Juno took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. We're crossing a line, she said softly, but if this war is a lie, we have to expose it before dawn. Her resolve strengthened as the team busied themselves. Outside the lab's reinforced viewport, Earth cities shimmered in silent innocence. Juno imagined the fleets gathering at the edges of the solar system, ready for battle that should never have been declared. Time ticked down as they prepared. Each moment brought them closer to a secret mission that might save millions or doom them if they failed. Yet as the corvette's engines warmed in the docks, Juno felt a spark of hope. Human courage, she thought, was always brightest in the darkest hour. With her allies by her side, she would find the truth behind the false signals and ensure that humanity did not march blindly into a war built on lies. The grand hall of the Celestia Summit Station shimmered with starlight filtering through its glass dome. Diplomats from dozens of worlds drifted between ornate arches, their robes trailing like comets. Commander Juno Hale, Lena Soren, Rafaela Cruz, and Dante Everin entered under the pretense of attending a scheduled peace celebration. The banner overhead read Interstellar Cooperation Symposium, though every guest's eyes flickered with concern over the looming Void Alliance threat. The atmosphere was tense, but the facade of festivity remained intact. They moved among clusters of neutral representatives, listening to hushed rumors. Most voices spoke of mounting dread, convinced war was imminent. Juno noted the absence of Grand Void delegates. Their empty seats at the main dais cast a heavy silence over the ceremony. Lena nudged Juno's elbow. They know better than to show their faces. They wouldn't trust these halls now, she whispered. Juno nodded. We need someone who can speak with authority. Her gaze found a tall figure standing alone beneath a sculpted spire. The newcomer's skin glowed faintly blue in the station's light. His features were sharp, alien yet familiar. This was Envoy Kairos Vander of the Astral Concord, a neutral alliance known for fair mediation. Juno approached with polite resolve. Envoy Vander, she began, bowing slightly. He inclined his head in greeting. Commander Hale, Analyst Soren, I have followed your broadcasts. You question the war footage. His voice was calm, melodic, carrying both warmth and caution. Lena stepped forward, producing a small hollow drive. These visuals are fake, she said. She tapped a sequence that revealed the misaligned shadows and outdated architecture. Kairos frowned as he studied the projection. This cannot be, he murmured. I have reports from our own scouts those colonies still exist, thriving even after your supposed attack. Juno exhaled. Then someone is using our own image against us, she said. We need to know who. Envoy Vander guided them to a quieter balcony overlooking the nebula-lit corridors. Below, traders and ambassadors moved in fractal patterns. Kairos pressed his fingers together. The merchants circle, he said softly. They have grown too bold. They sell arms, information, even ships to both Earth and the Grand Void Alliance. They profit from war, Dante's brow furrowed. But would they stage a conflict of this scale? It could destroy their business if exposed. Kairos shook his head. They are confident. They have influence in many councils and access to advanced forging tech. Rafkela added, our signal logs pointed to an unmarked station beyond neutral space. Perhaps that's one of their hubs. Lena's eyes lit up. That's the place we flagged for covert investigation. If the merchant circle is behind this, their station will hold the evidence. Juno squared her shoulders. We need proof files, transmission records, orders, enough to convince both Earth and Grand Void Alliance leaders to stand down. Kairos studied the silent halls. The summit security is strict, but I can arrange transport on my envoy cruiser. It flies under neutral colors, no warship signatures. You'll have minimal scrutiny. Juno hesitated. Our mission will be unauthorized. If station command orders a search, we could be detained or worse. Lena placed a hand on Juno's arm. We've seen what happens if we do nothing. A war that never began will scorch millions of lives. Juno nodded, resolve hardening in her chest. Under the station's domed sky, they formed their plan. Envoy Vander would provide the cruiser with forged diplomatic clearance. Dante and Juno would handle piloting and tactical clearance checks. Lena would decrypt any comm loops they found. Rafkela would prepare their own jamming system to evade local scanners. Timing was critical. The station rotated into eclipse behind the nebula in 48 hours, offering the best cover for a stealth approach. Once docked, they could infiltrate, retrieve incriminating data, and escape before the merchant circle noticed. As they finalized the details, a sudden hush fell over the main hall. A high-ranking envoy took the dais, Ambassador Estrella of the Sol Federation. Her voice rang out, measured but urgent. We stand on the brink of disaster, she declared. Yet evidence now shows the colonies believed lost remain intact. We call for calm and demand full disclosure before any fleet moves. Her words rippled through the crowd, sowing seeds of doubt and hope alike. Juno exchanged a glance with Kairos. Her speech buys us a few more hours of delay, she said. He offered a thin smile. And that is our window. Beneath the elegant banners and the soft glow of nebula dust, they knew the real battle lay ahead on that hidden station. It was a contest not of weapons, but of truth and trust. If they could expose the merchant circle's deception, they could avert a war and reshape alliances across the galaxy. With final nods, they dispersed back into the summit, blending into groups of anxious delegates. Each carried the gravity of their mission in their hearts. Soon they would slip away from this beacon of diplomacy into the void. The stakes were high, but human courage backed by loyal allies like Envoy Vander would guide them through the darkness. The true war would be against deceit itself, and they would meet it head-on. Under the cover of nebula shadows, the Envoy cruiser glided silently toward the unmarked station's docking ring. Commander Juno Hale stood on the flight deck beside Envoy Kairos Vander, observing the station's sleek silhouette through the viewport. The station's exterior bore no identification, only faint blue tracer lines marking its docking ports. The dim glow of its engines suggested minimal power draw, a ghost in the void. We'll dock at port 17, Kairos said, tapping a holographic interface. Security patrols follow a fixed schedule. We have a 15-minute window when the scanners rotate away. Lena Soren and Rafkela Cruz clustered near the access ladder, checking their gear. Lena adjusted her comm link's encryption protocols, while Rafkela loaded a portable signal jammer into her satchel. Lieutenant Dante Everin secured his sidearm and verified the corvette's once classified boarding booms. As the cruiser locked in place, an automated voice intoned over the overhead speakers. Welcome, Envoy Vessel Astral Concord. Please secure docking clamps. The clamps latched with a hushed clang. The boarding ramp descended. Juno drew a steady breath. Remember our orders, retrieve the data, and don't engage unless necessary. Kairos nodded. We move swiftly, then vanish before they know we were here. They stepped onto the station's docking bay, greeted by a polished metal corridor illuminated by soft white panels. The air smelled sterile with a hint of recycled ozone. No guards were present. The station's own security had detected no threat. Juno led the way, her boots echoing as she consulted the map projected by Lena's wrist hollow. Administration deck is 3 levels up, Juno murmured. We'll split. Lena and Rafaela take the comm hub Dante, and I will secure the mainframe and archive vault. Lena and Rafaela slipped into a maintenance alcove and activated their jammer. A low hum echoed as they masked their digital signatures. Rafaela scanned the corridor with a handheld sensor. Path clear, we have 10 minutes before any automated sweeps. Lena reached into her satchel for a data spike. This will override the local locks for 2 minutes, enough time to grab raw transmission logs. Meanwhile, Juno and Dante ascended in a service lift. The walls shimmered with data streams flowing across transparent panels. Juno studied the station's design, efficient, utilitarian, lacking ornamentation, a trading syndicate's hallmark, practical above all else. The lift doors parted on the administration level. 2 security drones hovered in the hallway, scanning for unauthorized life signs. Dante pressed a control on his wrist, activating a short-range EMP pulse. The drones expired in a flicker of sparks, falling silently to the floor. Nice work, Juno whispered. They approached a reinforced door marked Data Core. Dante deployed a microwelder to cut through the panel. Molten metal hissed, and within seconds the panel slid aside. Juno entered the access code Lena had sent. It matched the station's ship manifest format. The door swung open, revealing a chamber bathed in soft blue light. Rows of crystal data pods stood on racks, each labeled with dates and source systems. At the far end, a central console displayed a network of live feeds. Juno approached and inserted her portable drive into the port. Data began to flow, terabytes of intercepted transmissions, falsified orders, diplomatic cables rewritten. Every file bore the merchant's circle watermark, disguised as routine communications. Download at 50%, the console announced in a neutral tone. Dante covered the door, weapon raised. Juno watched the progress bar. Keep an eye on the scores. We need the profit projections and the AI forgery models. The console listed dozens of subfolders. She selected the ones marked Operation Profiteer and AI Mimicry Engine. The drive's lights blinked rapidly. Elsewhere, Lena and Rafaela reached the comm hub. The entrance door swiveled open at Lena's remote command. Inside, dozens of transceivers blinked as they hummed with active frequencies. Lena tapped into the main uplink. I'm mirroring the entire channel history. Rafaela set her jammer at minimal interference. We don't want to bring down the station, just mask our presence. The logs began copying, battle simulations, false attack bulletins, forecasts of fleet movements that never happened. Suddenly, an alarm klaxon sounded. Red lights pulsed throughout the station. Through the vent shafts, security teams mobilized. Rafaela grit her teeth. They've detected the breach. Lena forced the remaining files onto her drive. 5 seconds to full copy. The alarm grew louder as footsteps pounded the corridor. In the data core, Juno's console flickered. Download complete, it intoned. She yanked the drive free. Dante signaled. Time to go. They hurried toward the exit, only to find the corridor blocked by armored guards. The squad leader raised a stun baton, eyes cold behind his helmet. Halt, he barked. Juno stepped forward, hands raised. We have diplomatic clearance via astral-conquered envoy Kairos Vander. The guards hesitated. We're authorized. The leader scanned her insignia, then his visor flickered. Protocol mandate verification. Juno produced Kairos's encoded emblem. The guards watched the badge's hologram bloom. Go, the leader ordered, stepping aside. But clear this corridor now. Outside, the bay doors began sealing. Juno and Dante sprinted through, adrenaline coursing. At the junction, they met Lena and Rafaela, each clutching their drives. We're pinned, Rafaela warned. Security teams are flooding the deck. Lena tapped her wrist hollow. The station's hull vents open in 30 seconds. That corridor will be sucked into space. Juno's mind raced. We split. Dante, cover their exit. She turned to Rafaela and Lena. Follow the maintenance shaft to the vent access. I'll hold them off. Dante nodded, raising his weapon. Go. He ushered the women into a narrow service passage. Juno and Dante exchanged a brief look, resolve and trust. Then Juno sprinted down the main corridor as guards pursued. She fired her blaster at their ankles, slowing their advance. Sparks flew as stun bolts ricocheted off the bulkhead. In the vent shaft, Lena and Rafaela crawled toward the emergency vent platform. Rafaela jammed the door controls, forcing the bulkhead open a crack. Outside, the station's outer hull glowed against the nebula. Lena slotted her drive into the extraction port. Uploading to Kairos's cruiser. The drive's light pulsed. Back in the hallway, Juno's last clip struck true. The guards collapsed stunned. She sprinted to the vent door. With a kick, it swung inward. She dove through just as the corridor's outer hatch blew open. A blast of vacuum sucked stray debris into the void. Juno latched onto a handrail, gasping in the recycled air. Elsewhere, Envoy Kairos revved the cruiser's engines. Board now, he called over the intercom. Inside the vent shaft, Dante met Juno and escorted her onward. They surfaced in the maintenance foyer. Kairos and a pair of neutral peacekeepers stood ready. Rafaela and Lena emerged, triumphant and exhausted. As the boarding ramp retracted, the station receded behind them. Kairos guided the ship into free space, then engaged silent thrusters. The cruiser drifted until it slipped beyond the station's sensor range. In the flight deck's glow, Juno connected her drive to the comm uplink, transmitting everything to Earth Horizon Defense. Now. The files streamed across light years in secured channels, carrying proof that the Great War had been crafted by profiteers. Juno exhaled, relief mingling with the weight of their mission. Lena, Rafaela, Dante, and Kairos shared a look of quiet celebration. They had infiltrated, recovered the truth, and escaped. Now it was time to watch the lies unravel and prevent a war that should never have been. The Envoy cruiser shuddered as its engines powered up for the hyperspace jump. Inside the flight deck, Commander Juno Hale watched the comm uplink confirm that every bite of evidence had streamed toward Earth Horizon Defense Headquarters. She exhaled, relieved for a moment. Then Envoy Kairos Vander's console beeped urgently. "We have multiple contacts decloaking," he announced. "Merchant Circle corvettes armed and bearing down on us." Lieutenant Dante Everin sprang to his station, fingers dancing over the targeting holodable. "They want that data drive," he said. "They'll stop at nothing to retrieve it." Juno's jaw tightened. "We can't let them catch us," she replied. "Raise shields and prepare evasive maneuvers." Rafaela amplify the jammer to scramble their sensors. Rafaela Cruz, sweat beading on her brow, tweaked her controls until the console's hum became a rasping static. "Sending interference," she said. "They'll lose our trail for seconds, maybe enough." Outside, the nebula's gases swirled menacingly around the station's ruins. The merchant corvettes glowed like angry fireflies as they pursued. Juno held her breath as the cruiser dove into the nebula's fringe, engines flaring. Kairos veered sharply starboard to slip between dense clouds of ionized gas. Sparks of interference danced on their hull plating, masking their heat signature. Dante's voice crackled. "I'm engaging the forward beam cannons to cover our exit." Twin pulses of blue energy lanced out, harrying one of the corvettes into evasive retreat. But the Merchant Circle forces adapted quickly. Their leader, a barge-like frigate, opened a focused ion beam that carved through the nebula haze and struck the cruiser's aft shield. Alarms wailed as power diverted to reinforce the damaged quadrant. The cruiser lurched, forcing Juno to grip the console rail. "We're off course," Kairos shouted. "If we don't jump now, we'll be boarded." Juno slammed her palm on the hyperspace ignition pad. "Make it so." The ship vibrated as jump coils activated, time dilated with the familiar blue blur of hyperspace. The pursuing corvettes tumbled backward, their own drives choked by the nebula's interference. Then the cruiser vanished from real space, leaving only faint sensor echoes. Inside, the team sank into their seats, adrenaline still pounding. Juno closed her eyes for a heartbeat. "We made it," she whispered. Lena exhaled, wiping her palms on her uniform. "Horizon Defense will confirm receipt soon." Back at Earth Horizon, admirals and intelligence chiefs crowded around a secure holoscreen. The raw data from the Envoy cruiser scrolled in torrents: transmission logs, AI mimicry algorithms, profit ledgers detailing the Merchant Circle's planned billions in war contracts. Admiral Selene Riordan's eyes narrowed as she reviewed each file. "This changes everything," she muttered to her chief operations officer. Within minutes, a galaxy-wide emergency broadcast was prepared. Evidence of a false war manipulated by the Merchant Circle. Meanwhile, on the other side of the war declaration line, in the Grand Void Alliance's capital, similar scenes unfolded. Liaison officers received encrypted transmissions exposing the same deceit. Their Admiral Council convened at once, voices rising in shocked disbelief. The ambassador to Earth, nervously tapping a datapad, forwarded the evidence to every system in the Alliance. Soon, the massive Void fleet, poised like a hammer above humanity, stood its guns down, awaiting orders. In hyperspace, the cruiser glided toward the Astral Concord's safe haven. Envoy Kairos Vander signaled a jump to the neutral Ganymede node, a secure relay station. "We should reach it within hours," he said. Juno nodded, her eyes distant. "We've done our part, now the galaxy must decide." Rafaela managed a tired smile. "I'm just glad we got out alive." Dante leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "And that evidence will stop a war no one wanted." As the cruiser arced out of hyperspace, a message arrived from Admiral Riordan. "All ships stand down, new directive incoming." Cheers rippled through the crew. Juno felt a warmth in her chest as hope flickered across every console. They had risked everything, faced impossible odds, and prevailed. Human ingenuity and courage had cut through a web of lies. Later, in the quiet glow of the cruiser's rec room, Juno gathered her team. They spoke little, sharing looks of exhaustion and triumph. Lena raised a small glass of synthwine. "To truth," she toasted. and to humanity's spirit. Each member drank, the taste bitter but sweet with victory. Outside the viewport, stars streaked by as the ship moved steadily toward the node. Soon, Earth and the Grand Void Alliance would forge a new pact and the Merchant Circle would face justice. For now, Juno allowed herself a moment of peace. Tomorrow, they would help rebuild trust across the galaxy. But tonight, they would celebrate the quiet triumph of truth over deceit and the unwavering strength of humankind.